The DNA results arrived the morning of my ex-wife's wedding. I wasn't there. I sat alone at a small table near the window in a quiet hotel room, watching steam rise from a paper cup of coffee that had long gone cold. My phone vibrated face down, restless, impatient. I didn't answer it. Not yet. I already knew what the call would sound like. Panic dressed as politeness, fear masquerading as control. 3 weeks earlier, I had signed the divorce papers with a smile. They had paid me $3 million to disappear, and everyone involved believed the story was over. They were mistaken. That night had started routinely enough. Laura kissed my forehead, her way of appearing gentle without truly committing to closeness. Her lips were cool, her perfume clean and expensive. "We're going to be fine, babe," she said softly. The dishwasher hummed behind her, and the kitchen lights bounced off the marble countertops we'd chosen years ago. I nodded because asking questions I already knew the answers to felt unnecessary. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Her mother was on the line, her tone too cheerful for the situation. "Ethan, can you come by the house? We need to talk tonight." Laura didn't ask who it was. She already knew, and reached for her coat with efficient, rehearsed movements. That's when I realized this wasn't a conversation. It was a performance, and I had missed the rehearsal. Her parents' house sat at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, in a neighborhood where trees were trimmed weekly, and neighbors waved without really seeing you. Inside, everything smelled faintly of lemon polish and money. Art was displayed more for appearance than enjoyment, and a low table was already set with glasses we hadn't requested. Her father sat rigid on the couch. Her mother stood by the fireplace, and beside them was a man in a gray suit. I recognized him immediately as Mr. Halpern, the family attorney. "Let's be practical," her mother said before I even sat down. A thick, cream-colored envelope slid across the table. Inside, a single page showed a neatly printed number, $3 million, for me to sign the divorce papers that night. She explained it as if outlining a warranty. Move on with your life. Laura stood near the window, back to me, staring out at the street as if it held answers she didn't want to hear. I didn't ask why, or how long, or who. Betrayal rarely appears all at once. It arrives in fragments. A changed password, a late meeting, a look that passes through you instead of landing. "What about the other part?" I asked calmly. Her mother tilted her head. "Other part," I clarified. "The truth." Silence followed, humming louder than any conversation. Her father cleared his throat. "This is best for everyone." I looked at Laura. She didn't respond. Something inside me went quiet. Not broken, just silent, like a room stripped of furniture. I smiled. "Congratulations," I said. Her mother frowned. "Excuse me?" "On the new chapter," I replied. "The baby, the wedding, the life you carefully excluded me from." Laura finally turned, irritation tightening her features, as if I was making things unnecessarily difficult. Mr. Halpern slid a folder toward me. "Divorce papers, an NDA, a confidentiality clause, wide enough to last a lifetime. Sign here. The funds will transfer immediately." I picked up the pen, then paused. "I want this notarized, filed at the courthouse, and the wire transfer in my name tonight." Her mother smiled, relieved. They thought they had won. "Of course," she said. "They assumed I was focused on the money. They didn't realize that money leaves footprints, and footprints tell stories." At the courthouse, the air smelled of old paper and air conditioning. People waited quietly, holding folders that could change their lives. I signed without shaking. Laura's hand trembled. Her mother signed as if closing a real estate deal. The money hit my account before I left the building. I saved the receipt in 3 places. Habit, not fear. That night at home, I packed slowly, not from heartbreak, but clarity. In a drawer beneath old insurance documents, I found a thin medical file, mine from years ago, a consultation after a procedure Laura rarely remembered. Low probability of conception, the doctor had noted. Possible, but unlikely. Twins, pit 3. I sat on the bed, the room smelling faintly of detergent and something else I couldn't name, maybe endings. My phone buzzed, a text from Laura. "I hope you're okay." I didn't respond. I stared at the file, feeling something unfamiliar. Not rage, not grief, but focus. If she was pregnant with twins, someone was lying, and I had been paid to leave the room before the truth arrived. I didn't leave town to run. I left because distance makes patterns visible. 2 days after the courthouse, I checked into a hotel off the interstate, an anonymous space by design. Beige walls, muted art, a constant low hum from the HVAC. I placed my suitcase by the bed, set my keys on the desk, and paused, hands on hips, listening to the quiet. For the first time in 23 years, no one expected anything from me. I poured coffee from the cheap machine. It tasted burnt and metallic, but I drank it anyway. Ritual mattered more than comfort. I opened my laptop and began doing what I did best: organizing information. Divorce filing confirmed, wire transfer confirmed, notarized signatures scanned and saved, NDA highlighted, annotated, and flagged. The confidentiality clause was aggressive, too aggressive. It barred me from discussing anything about the marriage, its dissolution, or any related personal, medical, or professional matters. The language wasn't meant to protect feelings, it was meant to protect reputations. I forwarded the documents to Marcy, a paralegal I'd known since college. She wasn't my lawyer yet, but she could spot pressure disguised as choice. She called within minutes. "They rushed you," she said. "No greeting, only facts." "That isn't how amicable divorces happen." "They wanted it done fast," I replied. "People only rush when they're afraid of something showing up late." I stared at the wall while she spoke. I signed anyway. "I figured," she said, "that might have been the smartest move you could make." That night, I slept 4 straight hours, a hibernation of sorts. The next morning, an unfamiliar email arrived. No greeting, just an automated header. "Prenatal paternity test appointment confirmed." I read it twice. "Appointment Wednesday, results expected Friday at 10 a.m. I wasn't listed as the patient or father, but my old email shared with Laura for insurance was still attached. They were moving fast. I forwarded the email to Marcy without comment. Her reply came back in all caps: "Do not contact anyone. Save everything." I spent the afternoon wandering the hotel parking lot. Asphalt shimmered in the heat. Cars passed. Families moved with luggage, tired children arguing quietly about directions and dinner plans. Life continued elsewhere. On social media, Laura's family was anything but subtle. Photos of flowers, venue walkthroughs, captions like "New beginnings are beautiful." I didn't feel jealous. I felt replaced, like a house emptied, repainted, and relisted before the previous owner could settle elsewhere. That evening, another message arrived from an unknown number. "You should know they're pushing the DNA results before the wedding on purpose." Me, who is this? Someone who doesn't like being told what to forget. I typed, erased, typed again. "Why? Tell me." 3 dots appeared, then vanished. No response. Thursday, Marcy called. "They're laying groundwork," she said. "NDA, money, speed." "That's not closure, that's containment." "Could they undo it?" I asked. "The agreement," she paused, "if coercion or material facts were hidden, especially medical ones, yes." I thought of the file in my bag, the consultation, the probabilities. "I have something," I said. "Don't tell me over the phone," she replied. "Just hold it." That night, Laura called. Her name lit up the screen like muscle memory. I almost didn't answer. "Did you get there?" she asked, voice tight. "I did." Silence. Music, laughter, planning in the background. "I didn't want it to happen like this," she said. "No one does," I replied. "You didn't even fight." I exhaled slowly. "You're acting like you know something." "I know enough," I said. "Ethan, I'm not your enemy," I added gently, "but I'm not your cover story either." She hung up. Friday morning arrived quietly. I woke before my alarm, showered, dressed, and sat at the small table by the window. Phone face down, coffee beside it, just as I had imagined. At 9:58 a.m., my hands were steady. At 10:01, the phone vibrated once, then again. I didn't pick up. At 10:02, it rang. "Ethan," her mother said, breathless but composed. "Are you somewhere private?" I closed my eyes. "Yes." I didn't ask what was wrong. Her shallow, hurried breath said enough. "There's been a complication," she said carefully. "The results, they're not what we expected." Behind her, I heard movement, doors opening and closing, someone crying. I remained calm. "Did you know about the test?" she asked. I looked out the window at the parking lot, a man loading luggage, a woman holding a coffee cup carefully. "You were in such a hurry," I said evenly. "I assumed you'd handle the details." Her breath caught. "This isn't the time for that tone, Ethan." "No," I agreed. "It isn't." A new voice interrupted sharply. Greg, Laura's boss and groom-to-be. "The lab screwed up," he said, loud enough to be heard even without holding the phone. "Tests fail sometimes." "Not like this," I replied. "How would you know?" he snapped. I thought, "I wasn't the father and neither were you." I didn't say it. Instead, "If you think it's wrong, run it again." A sharp sound followed, a chair maybe, knocked over. Laura's voice cracked. It's not wrong. The line went dead. I didn't move for a long time, listening to the room's hum, distant traffic, muted life continuing elsewhere. 10 minutes later, Marcy called. They got the results, she said, so I've heard, and it blew up. She exhaled slowly. Good. That means they're scared. I rubbed my temples. They're not done, Marcy said. No, they're just switching tactics. That afternoon, I checked out of the hotel and drove south. Not home, but somewhere neutral, with water and distance. A place where the horizon didn't end in other people's expectations. I booked a small inn near the coast. Nothing fancy, just creaky floors and salt in the air, the kind of place people go when they want to think without being watched. At night, I walked along the shore. The sand was cold under my shoes. The ocean moved as it always had, indifferent to human problems. My phone buzzed constantly. I didn't answer. Texts from Laura, missed calls from her father, a voicemail from an unknown number that left no message. Saturday morning, I finally listened to one voicemail from Laura. Please, she said, openly crying. This is worse than you think. They're panicking. Greg is furious. My mom keeps saying we can fix this, but I don't know how. I didn't think it would come to this. I sat on the bed, curtains fluttering lightly. I didn't think it would either, I said aloud, though she couldn't hear me. By noon, a new email arrived, clarification regarding test results. Body. There may have been an error in the chain of custody. Further review is underway. I forwarded to Marcy. Her reply came almost instantly. They're trying to buy time. Don't give it to them. That evening, a call came from Daniel, an assistant at the medical group Laura's company partnered with. I shouldn't be calling you, he said quietly. I can't say much, but someone very powerful pushed for that test to be rushed, off the books. My grip tightened on the phone. Who? I asked. A pause. Not Greg. Then silence. Sunday morning, social media went dark. No wedding posts, no smiling captions. Silence, sudden, total. That told me more than any confession could. By Sunday night, Marcy called again. They're going to reach out soon, probably with another offer. I'm not for sale, I replied. I know, but they don't, she said. Monday came with rain, steady and heavy. I sat in a small cafe near the pier, nursing black coffee that tasted like burnt wood. At 7:43 a.m., an email appeared from an unknown sender. You deserve the full truth. I stared at the screen. The body contained one line. The father isn't a stranger. It's someone who's been in the room the whole time. My stomach tightened, not in shock, but in recognition. Seconds later, a follow-up. If you want proof, meet me tomorrow, 7 a.m. alone. I have the audio. I closed my laptop slowly. Waves crashed against the rocks below. Loud, final, unapologetic. For the first time since signing those papers, I felt something shift. Not relief, not triumph, but resolve. This wasn't about embarrassment or revenge. It was about how far people would go to hide the truth and how loud it gets when it begins to surface. I returned to town the night before the wedding. Not to confront them, but to be close enough to hear the truth when it broke. I checked into the same small hotel near the courthouse, same beige walls, same humming vent. Sleep came in fragments. By 9:40 a.m., I was awake, showered, dressed, sitting by the window. Outside, the sky was clear, almost offensively blue, the kind of morning that promises happiness to those who still believe. I poured coffee but didn't drink it. At 9:58, my phone lit up with notifications I ignored. At 10:02, it rang. Laura's mother. I let it ring once more before answering. Ethan, she said too quietly, her voice stripped of polish. Thank God you're reachable. I leaned back. I always am. Noise flooded the line. Chairs scraping, voices overlapping, a sharp clatter. You need to understand, she said, lowering her voice. This situation has escalated. Has it? I asked. Yes, the DNA results came back. I waited. Another pause, longer this time. You knew? She said, voice tightening. You scheduled the test, I replied. I assumed you'd get the results. That's not what I meant, she snapped. Did you know they wouldn't match Greg? I closed my eyes. I knew enough not to be surprised. Her breath stuttered, panic creeping in where control used to be. Behind her, a man shouted, not angry, terrified. Then Greg's voice, sharp and desperate. This is insane. They said the twins weren't mine. That's impossible. She didn't swear. Laura interrupted, voice breaking completely. That's different. I pictured the room without seeing it, the carefully arranged flowers, unopened champagne, guests arriving downstairs, unaware the story they came to celebrate was already collapsing. Greg, I said calmly, if the test says they're not yours, yelling won't change that. You don't get to lecture me, Greg shouted. This is your mess. No, I corrected. This is your rush. Silence fell, heavy and unnatural. Then Laura spoke, softer now. Ethan, please. I didn't respond. A new voice entered, measured and authoritative, unmistakably practiced. Mr. Walker, the man said, this is Halpern. Of course it was, I replied. I think we need to reset the tone here, he continued. Everyone is emotional. This isn't productive. You scheduled a prenatal DNA test days before a wedding, I said. I'd say emotion is the least of your problems. That test was necessary, he said quickly. There were questions. Questions you were too afraid to ask too late, I interrupted. He inhaled sharply, a tiny sound, but I heard it. Somewhere in the background, Laura sobbed. This can still be handled discreetly, Halpern said. We prefer to keep your name out of whatever comes next. I smiled without humor. You paid me to disappear, I said. That was your discretion. Her mother's voice jumped in, shaking. What do you want? There it was. Not apology, not truth. Price, I want you to stop calling, I said evenly. A thud echoed through the line. That's it, Greg snapped. You walk away while we clean up your mess. I waited until the noise died down. Greg, I said quietly, if you think this ends with me, you haven't read the room. Laura's voice rose suddenly, wild, uncontrolled. I didn't do this alone. The line went dead. Then a sound cut through, clear, furious, unmistakable. A man's scream, the kind adults make when the ground disappears beneath them. Words didn't follow, only chaos. Someone shouting Laura's name, another telling people to turn the music off, the distant echo of a door slamming. Then Halpern again, composure cracking just enough. Ethan, he said, lowering his voice, this call didn't happen. You should hang up. You're not thinking clearly, I replied. The line went dead. I set the phone down gently, as if fragile. My hands weren't shaking. Minutes later, an email appeared. Update on prenatal paternity results. I didn't open it. Instead, I stared out the window at the parking lot below. Guests arriving, valets opening doors, life continuing in a room where the truth was already screaming. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. It's worse than you think. The father isn't Greg, and it isn't random. I typed one word, Mayoi Sahur Ne. 3 dots appeared, paused, then disappeared. Another email arrived. You deserve to know who the father is. I leaned back and finally took a sip of coffee. Cold, but for the first time in weeks, everything else felt sharp, focused, aligned. I wasn't waiting for the truth. The truth was running toward me, and it was panicking. I didn't reply immediately. Not from fear, but understanding. People don't send messages like that unless they're losing control. I closed my laptop, listening to the hotel's familiar hum, an ice machine nearby, a door opening down the hall. Ordinary sounds, grounding sounds, sounds that reminded me the world keeps moving even while my life was being rearranged. My phone buzzed again. Marcy. They're calling everyone, she said, no preamble. Ex's parents, Greg, even people who shouldn't be involved. Usually that means they're trying to find the leak. There is one, I said, and he's scared. She was quiet. That's good. Fear makes people sloppy. I forwarded her the email. No commentary, she called back within 30 seconds. This isn't just an affair anymore, she said. This is damage control. Someone with authority pushed things to move fast. DNA, money, timing. That's orchestration. Halpern, I said. I was hoping you wouldn't say that. So was I, she replied. By late afternoon, my phone rang again. Laura's father this time. I let it go to voicemail. Ethan, his message said. Strained voice. We need to talk in person. This has gone too far. I smiled faintly. It had gone exactly far enough. I agreed to meet the next morning on my terms. Not at their house, not at the club, but Halpern's office. Neutral ground, glass walls, conference table, somewhere words echo. When I arrived, they were seated. Laura stiff at one end, eyes red, makeup reapplied like armor. Her parents side by side, posture tight, rehearsed. Halpern at the head, immaculate suit, calm, fingers steepled as if moderating a board meeting instead of a collapse. Thank you for coming, he said smoothly. I didn't come for you, I replied, taking a seat. I came to listen. Laura looked at me, really looked. For the first time in weeks, she seemed to realize I wasn't here to be managed. Her mother spoke first. This has become complicated. It was complicated when you put money on the table, I said. Now it's just exposed. Halpern raised a hand gently. Let's stay constructive. You paid me $3 million to disappear, I said calmly, then rushed a prenatal DNA test before a wedding. That's not constructive, that's containment. Her father bristled. You took the money. Yes, I agreed, and you left a trail. Halpern's attention flickered, barely visible, but I saw it. Laura's mother leaned forward. We can amend the agreement. Of course you can, I said. You always think you can. Halpern slid a folder toward me, an updated NDA, expanded compensation. We'd like to resolve this quietly. I didn't touch it. Instead, I reached into my bag and placed 3 items on the table, neatly aligned. The wire transfer receipt, the notarized divorce filing, and a copy of the NDA with my annotations. Halpern's eyes dropped to the documents despite himself. You paid me, I said, voice steady. You rushed me and you tried to silence me. That's pressure, and pressure leaves fingerprints. Laura's father stood abruptly. This is absurd. No, I replied. What's absurd is thinking you could erase me without consequence. Halpern cleared his throat. Mr. Walker, we're trying to protect the family. From what? I asked. He didn't answer. His phone vibrated on the table. He reached for it too quickly, turned it face down, but not before I saw the preview. I can't hold this anymore. He's going to tell everything. The room went still. Laura's mother followed my gaze, drained of color. Halpern's composure slipped just a fraction, enough to matter. You want to know what I want? I said quietly. No one spoke. I want you to stop pretending this is about me, I continued, because it isn't. It's about whoever's been hiding behind your authority. Halpern met my eyes. For the first time, there was no confidence, only calculation. This conversation is over, he said sharply. No, I replied, standing. It's just finally honest. As I reached the door, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text, unknown number. Tomorrow, 7 a.m., diner on Route 9. Come alone. I have the audio. I didn't turn back. Behind me, I heard Laura whisper my name. I kept walking. Whatever they were protecting was bigger than a wedding, bigger than an affair, and someone inside their circle was about to break. The diner sat just off Route 9, between a gas station and a car wash, the kind of place people notice only when they need coffee too early to belong to anyone. The neon sign buzzed faintly, one letter flickering as if tired of pretending everything worked. Inside, the smell of bacon grease and burnt coffee wrapped around me as I pushed the door open. It was 6:58 a.m. I chose a booth near the wall, back to the window, not out of fear, but to avoid distraction. Truth requires attention. I ordered black coffee, no sugar, no cream. I needed the bitterness clean. At 7:03, a man slid into the seat across from me. Baseball cap low, mask covering half his face, plain jacket, ordinary enough to disappear, but his eyes kept darting to the door. He didn't say my name or greet me. He placed his phone on the table, face down, and pushed it toward me. I can't stay long, he said quietly. I shouldn't even be here. Then why are you? I asked. His jaw tightened beneath the mask. Because I haven't slept since Friday. I didn't reach for the phone. People tell the truth more easily when they don't feel rushed. They told us it was urgent, he continued. Special handling, confidential, no paper trail beyond the minimum. I thought it was just rich people being rich. Then I asked and realized who was calling the shots. I brushed the edge of the phone. Who? He hesitated, exhaled sharply. Halpern. The name landed exactly where I expected. He came in himself, didn't send an assistant, didn't email. He stood there, smiled, and said this had to be done before the wedding. The family couldn't afford uncertainty. Mistakes would be unfortunate. What kind of mistakes? I asked. He swallowed. The kind that get blamed on someone lower down. I nodded once. The audio. He unlocked the phone, slid it toward me. It's all there. I recorded it for insurance. I pressed play. Halpern's voice filled the space. Calm, cultured, used to closing rooms. You understand this needs to be settled before the ceremony. There's too much at stake to let timing interfere. A woman's voice followed, strained, frightened. But the results, if they come back wrong, they won't help. And if they do, we'll know how to interpret them, Halpern replied smoothly. But he's not the father, the woman whispered. Don't be naive, Halpern said. The father is me, and you're not going to destroy a family over biology. My chest went cold. The audio ended. The diner suddenly felt louder. Forks clinking, coffee pouring, a truck rumbling outside. Normal sounds unaware they were sharing space with something radioactive. I didn't react outwardly. Inside, something final settled. So it wasn't just an affair, I said quietly. The man shook his head. It was a plan. I saved the file to my phone and sent it to Marcy with one-word subject, audio. Her response came before I could lock the screen. Do not confront anyone. Come straight to me now. I looked up at the man. You did the right thing. He gave a humorless laugh. I hope that's true. He stood, dropped cash on the table, and disappeared without looking back. I sat another minute, letting coffee cool. When I stood, I didn't feel shaken. I felt precise. At Marcy's office, she listened to the recording twice. First time, neutral. Second time, she removed her glasses, leaned back, staring at the ceiling. This changes everything, she said. Finally, I replied. I don't want a public spectacle. I don't want babies punished for adult decisions. She nodded. Then we do this clean legally, permanently. She outlined it like a checklist: fraud, coercion, abuse of authority, witness intimidation, enough leverage to make even powerful people reconsider their confidence. My phone buzzed again, Laura, but I didn't answer. I watched Marcy organize the evidence into folders, each labeled calm, deliberate. For the first time since that night in the kitchen, since the forehead kiss and the lie that followed, I felt something unexpected. Not satisfaction or control, because the truth wasn't something I needed to shout. It was something I could place carefully and let speak for itself. The final meeting didn't happen in a courtroom. It happened in a glass-walled conference room overlooking a parking lot, smelling faintly of hot asphalt and rain. No spectators, no raised voices, just a long table, a pot of coffee no one touched, and the kind of silence that forms when everyone understands the stakes. Marcy sat beside me, posture relaxed, yellow legal pad in front of her. Across the table were Laura's parents, stiff and pale, and Halpern, still composed but no longer untouchable. Laura arrived last. She looked smaller than I remembered, not physically, morally, but like someone who had been holding up a collapsing structure with bare hands and finally let go. We're here to resolve this, Halpern, he began, tone practiced. Marcy didn't respond. She slid a folder to the center of the table and opened it to a single page, the transcript of the audio. Not the whole thing, just enough. Halpern's eyes moved across the words, his jaw tightening once. He closed the folder himself. This won't end well, he said quietly. I met his gaze. Truth rarely does for those who rely on silence. Laura's mother leaned forward, hands clasped too tightly. What do you want? There it was again, the same question, the same assumption. I don't want more money, I said. I don't want a public apology. I don't want to negotiate my dignity. Her father scoffed weakly. Then why are we here? I took a slow, measured breath, the way I'd learned when meetings mattered. 3 things, I said, lifting 3 fingers. First, you retract every statement, formal or informal, that painted me as opportunistic, vindictive, or bought. I will not be recast as the villain to protect your image. Laura swallowed, nodded faintly. Second, what's mine comes back to me, not as a favor, as acknowledgement. Assets I contributed to, accounts I built. No NDA as a guilt trap. Halpern shifted in his chair. Marcy wrote something down without looking up. And third, I continued, you handle the consequences fully and honestly for the children. Not behind closed doors, not with scapegoats, with responsibility. Laura's mother shook her head, voice breaking. You can't expect us to. I can, I interrupted gently, because if you don't, the next version of this conversation won't be private. The room went still. Halpern leaned back, eyes narrowed, calculating exits. You'd expose everything, he said. I'd expose the truth, I replied. There's a difference. Laura finally spoke. I didn't think it would go this far. I looked at her for a long moment. It always does, I said, when people keep choosing the easy lie. She lowered her eyes. The agreement that followed wasn't dramatic. It was meticulous. Language revised, clauses removed, acknowledgments added. The NDA rewritten to protect privacy, not reputations built on manipulation. Halpern signed last, pressing harder than necessary. When it was over, no one celebrated. I stood, gathered my coat, and turned to Laura. She opened her mouth as if to speak. An apology, maybe a memory. I shook my head once, not cruelly, just clearly. You don't need to say anything, I told her. You already did when you let them speak for you. Outside, the air was cool and clean. It had rained recently, and the pavement reflected the sky like a second chance. I walked to my car, sat for a minute, hands on the wheel, breathing. The following morning, I walked along the water, early, quiet. Older couples passed, moving slowly, comfortable in their silence. I bought a coffee from a small stand and watched the horizon brighten. I didn't feel victorious. I felt unburdened. Back home, I changed the locks, deleted old contacts, filed documents into a drawer labeled closed. When Laura's name appeared on my phone one last time, I didn't hesitate. I deleted it. Some endings don't need fireworks, they need air. If you've stayed with me this far, I want to ask something honestly. If you had been in my place, would you have signed and walked away or fought from the very first minute? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I read them. And if stories like this, quiet, hard truths, and endings that let you breathe, matter to you, consider subscribing. We share them every day, and your presence means more than you know. Let's keep walking this road together.